Shalom, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father in the ancient Hebrew, and His Son's name is Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And especially in these last days, those last two names will be exalted. This is not going to be a long video. Just wanted to get into back into the history of Daniel chapter 7 and verse 4, because there's history within, usually when we go through these breakdowns, you go through them kind of quick. But something I always listen to Apostle Har say is when you're going through some of these breakdowns, he said if he was really to break down the whole thing, he could talk about it for like 2 hours or so, because there's so much history within these scriptures. It isn't just like okay, let me just get into it a little bit. It's Daniel chapter 7 verse 4. It says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given into it. Now, when you know this breakdown, you know that that's going into when the Babylonians took down the Assyrian Empire. But, when you just go through the breakdown, you just explain that really quickly to somebody. But really, there's a lot of history. It isn't just like that. The Babylonians took down the Assyrians. There's things that happen, events that happen within that time frame. So just wanted to go over the history, explaining how the Babylonians took down the Assyrian Empire. And that'll be it for the video. So just give me one moment. All right, so we're going into the history of Assyria. And what we want to go to is to the downfall. All right. This is the downfall of Assyria. It's also called the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, or sometimes, to be like really specific, just so you know, it's also called the Neo-Assyrian Empire, because the Neo-Assyrian Empire started with Tiglath-Pileser the First. I mean, sorry, not Tiglath-Pileser the First. Tiglath-Pileser the Third, who started the Neo-Assyrian Empire. That was from 745 BCE, I think it is, and then the Assyrian Empire ended in 612 BCE when the Babylonians led by Nabopolassar finally took it down. So it's really collectively called the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, because throughout the history of Assyria, it would be like sometimes the Babylonians would be atop, then the Assyrians. It would be like a back and forth thing. But during the time, they had one called Kassite Babylon time period. They had I think it was Sumer at one point, the Sumerians, and then also, what was it? There was one more. What was it again? Damn it. Yeah, it's been a while. But just to explain the point, it's been a while since I studied that. But just for you to know, it's been a back and forth thing with the Assyrians and Babylonians over throughout the time period. It wasn't just before the the Neo-Assyrian Empire. There was other empires dealing with that place in Mesopotamia before. So the Neo-Assyrian Empire would be the last empire of the Assyrians before the Babylonians took over, and that would become the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which it's this Assyria, Babylon, is the same place within the same area. Matter of fact, just to show you a picture of it. As you can see, this is the picture of the Assyrian Empire. Oh, come on, picture. Give me 1 second. All right, cool. There we go. As you can see, Babylon right there at the bottom. You see where it says Sippar, and then you have Babylon right there, and then up you have the capital Nineveh, and then you have Asher. And also, when you read the scriptures, Assyria, Asher, it's the same thing. Just it means the same thing. You could replace. You could say Assyria, and then you could also say Asher. It's the same thing. So don't get confused when you sometimes see in the scriptures, or if you read about, uh, this area that, oh, it says Ashur, or sometimes it says Assyria. It's the same thing. It's interchangeable. You could change the word Assyria, Asher. It means the same thing. So let's get into it, right? So let's go back to scripture real quick. Just want to read it one more time. So again, Daniel chapter 7, verse 4, it says, "The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked." Right, so that's going into when the because one of the Assyrians symbol, or like the statue they had, was this griffin, where it would have a man's face, it would have like lion's feet on it, it have the body of a lion, I believe, as well, and then it would have wings. So that was a symbol for the Assyrians. So when it says the first was like a lion that had eagle's wings, that's one of Assyria's symbols. So that's the Assyrians. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. That's when the wings got plucked. What does a bird use to fly? What gives it its power? Its wings. So when it says the wings were plucked, that means that's when Assyria was taken down, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given into it. That's when the Babylonians came into power. So now let's just go into the history. It says the downfall of Assyria. The last 12 years of Ashurbanipal's reign are the most are in almost complete darkness, as the royal annals come to an abrupt end in 639 BCE. Now, also this guy Ashurbanipal was known as the last great king of Assyria. He's not the last king of Assyria, but he's known as the last great king of Assyria, because you have those great Assyrian kings' names. Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, Esarhaddon, Shalmaneser V, Sennacherib. Those big names. So he was the last great king of Assyria. Then he had two sons, as it's gonna say here. In 627 BCE, Ashurbanipal died. Coincidentally, the puppet ruler whom Ashurbanipal had installed in Babylon also died. Ashurbanipal's son, I'm going to try to say his name correctly, Ashur Etil Elani, succeeded his father in Assyria, and his brother Sinshar Ishkun. Now, this is another guy, Sinshar Ishkun. I've heard him be called Sardanapalus. Sorry for the plane outside. I'm going to let that pass by. What is this, like camp now? But Sinshar Ishkun, I've heard him be called Sardanapalus. I've even heard him called Sarakis, but most of the time I've heard him called Sinshar Ishkun. So Ashurbanipal had two sons. Uh, the first one was Ashur Etil Elani, and then the other one, Sinshar Ishkun, became king of Babylon. So, like I showed earlier in the picture, Babylon is to the south, and Assyria, or Ashur, is to the north. So Sinshar Ishkun was king of Babylon, which was in the south, and his brother Ashur Etil Elani was king of Ashur, which is in the north. The following year, however, Sinshar Ishkun was driven from Babylon. Yet again, the Chaldeans, now under a leader called Nabopolassar. Right. So now let's get into this character, Nabopolassar. Let me go back a little bit. Right. So it says Nabopolassar, meaning Nabu, protect the sun, was the founder and first king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, ruling from his coronation as king of Babylon in 626 BC to his death in 605 BC. Though initially only aimed at restoring and securing the independence of Babylonia, Nabopolassar's uprising against the Neo-Assyrian Empire, which had ruled Babylonia for more than a century, eventually led to the complete destruction of the Assyrian Empire and the rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire in its place. Salakia. Let me just see. There was something I wanted to read. Okay, let me just go back then. Like I said, I didn't want to make this too long. Just wanted to get into history real quickly. Right? So again, let's just recap real quick. You have after Ashurbanipal died, he has two sons. One ruled Assyria or Ashur to the north, which is Ashur Etil Ilani. He ruled the north of Mesopotamia. That area is also known as Mesopotamia. And then in Babylon, the south, his son Shinshar Ishkun ruled Babylon. And eventually, Nabopolassar, people got tired of how the way Assyria the Assyrians were ruling. So this is when Nabopolassar got riled. The Lord put the spirit on Nabopolassar to come up into power, and basically he kicked Shinshar Ishkun out of um out of Babylon. So then Shinshar Ishkun was forced to go into Syria, and like it'll say for you, I'll read it as well. After Shinshar Ishkun got kicked out of Babylon, he went up north to Ashur, and basically him and his brother had a civil war trying to fight over rule of Assyria. And really, all this is happening to fulfill prophecy. Because remember what? During this time as well, you have what? The prophet Jeremiah prophesying to Israel, saying that the Lord is going to bring that army from the north, which are the Babylonians, to come and destroy the land Israel. So that's why also I want to get into history, because this isn't just happening just to happen. This is also happening to fulfill prophecy when the Lord said that, through the words of Jeremiah, that he's going to send that army from the north to come and destroy the land of uh, to take basically put Judah in captivity. So you have where was it again? Where was I? Okay, I'll just read. The following year, however, Shinshar Ishkun was driven from Babylon by yet again the Chaldeans, now under a leader called Nabopolassar. Shinshar Ishkun then rebelled against his brother, and a 3-year civil war ensued in Assyria. Right, so him and his brother were fighting for control. Shinshar Ishkun was the victor, ascending the Assyrian throne in 623 BCE. Did I want to read something? Hold on. I want to go back to Shinshar Ishkun over here. Nah, that's not it. I just want to read this because, sometimes you have to check through certain things, because some people say that, oh, his brother was killed. He killed his brother, or sometimes it was Kook. So it says, the rise to the throne and the revolt of Sin Shumu Ishkir, that, which I'm not going to get into that, but it says, in the middle of 627 BC, Ashurbanipal's son and successor, Ashur Etil Ilani, died, leading to Ashur Etel Elani's brother Shinsha Ishkun ascending to the Assyrian throne. Although it has been suggested by several historians, there is no evidence to prove the idea that Ashur Etel Elani was disposed in a coup by his brother. Shinshar Ishkun's inscriptions state that he was selected for kingship from among several of his equals, i.e., for example, his brothers by the gods. So sometimes you'll have certain people say that, okay, Shinshar Ishkun killed his brother during those 3 years of civil war to, get the throne. Some say as a coup. Regardless, just to bring out the point, is that he still became king of Asher. He still got control. But, just to check through, certain people, certain Bible scholars or certain historians will say certain different things. But the point is that he eventually got control. Shinshar Ishkun then rebelled against his brother, and a 3-year civil war ensued in Assyria. Shinshar Ishkun was the victor, ascending the Assyrian throne in 623 BCE. Troubles were mounting for the Assyrian Empire, however. A vicious 7-year war in Babylonia failed to put down Nabopolassar's revolt. Scythian and Sumerian raiders from the steppes north of the Black Sea rampaged unchecked through Assyrian territory in Anatolia and northern Assyria. The appeals of Assyria's subjects in those areas for help went unheeded. In 616 BCE, the Chaldeans under Nabopolassar, who had styled himself king of Babylon for the past 10 years, invaded Assyria itself. This was an unprecedented turn of events and was followed by another. The Assyrian king the Assyrian king appealed to his former enemy, the king of Egypt. Now, when it says that, it doesn't mean that this guy had a problem with the king of Egypt. You got to understand that during the time of the Assyrians, his father Ashurbanipal, who I was talking about earlier, is the one who did something dirty to the Egyptians. So that's why when it says he's appealing to his enemy, the Egyptians, it's because his father did the evil to the Egyptians. The Egyptians also look at him as a piece of shit as well. So they're like, you know, why should I help you? Your father did me dirty. So I look at you as an enemy because you're your father's son. You're going to follow in your father's footsteps. Why should I be friends with you? So that's why it's saying that he appealed to his enemies, to his former enemies, the king of Egypt, for aid. The Egyptians agreed, but any help they contributed arrived too late. For in the following year, the Medes also invaded Assyria and captured the Assyrian holy city Ashur. Here, the Medes and the Babylonians agreed to an act in unison in 614 BCE. So now I want to get into that, because now, no, not that. That gets into Cyaxares, because when it wasn't just the Babylonians led by Nabopolassar that took down the Assyrians. It was a combined effort. Some people say the Medio-Babylonian, combined forces or something like that. That's what took down Assyria. So you had Nabopolassar, who was coming against the Assyrians, and also this other character called Cyaxares. So let's get into him real quick. It says Cyaxares was the third and most capable king of Media, according to Herodotus, with a far greater military reputation than his father Phraortes or his grandfather Deioces. He was the first to divide his troops into separate sections of spearmen, archers, and horsemen. And he ruled from 625 to 585 BC. Now, when it says reign, it doesn't mean that he was born in 625, just to, point that out. I used to think like that as well. When it says 6, that's when he started his reign. So he could have been like, let's say 20 years old. When he was 20 years old, that's when his reign began in 625. It doesn't mean that he was born in 625 and then his reign ended in, which it did end in 585. So when you see reign, reign doesn't also mean when he began, wasn't the day of his birth. Matter of fact, does it say his day of his birth here? Let me see. No, it does not show that. But just a little thing for you to know, when you see that date, like just for this example, 625 does not mean the day he was born. It just means the day that he started reigning, the day he became king. Right. So it says, by uniting most of the Iranian tribes of ancient Iran and conquering neighboring territories, Cyaxares transformed the Median Empire into a regional power. He facilitated the fall of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, and according to Herodotus, repelled the Scythians from Media. He was one of the great grandfathers of Cyrus the Great. So right, this is what I want to get into. It says Cyaxares was born in the Median capital of Ecbatana. His father Phraortes was killed in a battle against the Assyrians. So, and I believe, oh no, does it say that? Okay, yeah, it does. Led by Ashurbanipal, the king of Assyria. Excuse me. After Phraortes' demise, the Scythians overran Media and controlled the area for a period of 28 years. Cyaxares, seeking revenge, killed the Scythian leaders and proclaimed himself king of Medes. After throwing off the Scythians, he prepared for war against Assyria. So, when his father, Shinshar Ishkun's father, which is Ashurbanipal, did that evil, did the Medians dirty, and caused the death of his father Phraortes, Cyaxares kept that in his mind years later and was like, now when he saw that the Assyrians are getting weak, they're having a civil war, And this other guy, Nabopolassar, is coming into power, and he's also beating him. That's why he jumped in as well, and is like, I will also want revenge. So then him and Nabopolassar are working together to bring down the Assyrians. I'm not sure if it's also going to say that, but I just want to say that just I think it may also say it, but also 614 BCE, as the Medes led by Saxaries and the Nabopolassar, who's leading the Babylonians, uh, to basically, you know, they had an agreement, where Cyaxares gave off his daughter Amites or Amites, however you want to say that, to Nabopolassar's son, which is Nebuchadnezzar II, that you read about. So basically, that was like a marriage agreement saying that, look, we're not going to fight amongst each other. Look, we're working together, you know? Let me get out of here. We're working together, so I'm going to give my daughter to your son as in a form of agreement that, look, we're working together to take down these guys. I'm not sure if it'll say that, but just wanted to put that out there. That happened during 614 BCE, during while they were sieging Assyria or Asher. Where was I? After throwing off the Scythians, he prepared for war against Assyria. Cyaxares reorganized the Median Cyaxares reorganized the Median army, then allied himself with King Nabopolassar of Babylonia, a mutual enemy of Assyria. This alliance was formalized through the marriage of Cyaxares' daughter Amites or Amites to Nabopolassar's son Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so it did say it. So that's all. I just wanted to get into that character. Now where was I? Okay, I'll start back from there. Okay, in 616 BC, the Chaldeans under Nabopolassar, who styled himself king of Babylon for the past 10 years, invaded Assyria itself. This was an unprecedented turn of events and was followed by another. The Assyrian king appealed to his former enemy, the king of Egypt, for aid, which I believe the king of Egypt, another thing, the king of Egypt at that time, I think his name was Psammaticus. I think it might be Psammaticus the third, if I'm not mistaken. You can check on that just to make sure, but I believe it was Psammaticus the third. But any help they contributed arrived too late. For in the following year, the Medes also invaded Assyria, like we were getting into, Cyaxares, and captured the Assyrian holy city of Ashur. Here, the Medes and the Babylonians agreed to act in unison 614 BC, and after a year's slow campaigning, they besieged the Assyrian capital Nineveh in 612 BCE. So basically, that was also fulfilling the Nahum's, I believe it's Nahum's prophecy of that woe to that bloody city. But another thing is for you to know as well that prophecy is also twofold, because America is also likened unto Assyria. America is likened unto Egypt, Sodom, um, Babylon, and Assyria. How is it likened unto Sodom? I don't think I really need to explain how it's likened unto Sodom. Come on now. But if you don't, the homosexuality. How is it likened unto Egypt? Because we're slaves here. How is it likened unto Babylon? Because of the confusion. How is it likened unto Assyria? Because Assyria, like Nahum was saying, was woe unto that bloody city. And America, this land of America, is filled with blood. Whose blood? Israelites' blood. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And those of you who may not look black, who may not look Latino or look Native American Indians, your line, if you look white, look Chinese, your line may go back to Israel. This isn't a color thing. It's, really a bloodline thing. So that's how America, I'll repeat it one more time, that's how America is likened unto Babylon, likened unto Egypt, and also likened unto Assyria. Likened unto Babylon, confusion, Babal. Egypt, the captivity, bondage. We're still slaves here, even if you don't think you are. And Assyria, the bloody city, which this land is filled with our blood. It says, after 3 months, the great city fell and was utterly destroyed. All the cities of Assyria were also taken and razed to the ground. Only villages were left in the land. So yeah, that's about it. So just a quick recap. Just wanted to go over it. Just explain it real quickly. Just real quick. So at the beginning of it, at the end of it, you had Ashurbanipal, who was the last great king, not the last king of Assyria, but of the Assyrian Empire, but the last great king of the Assyrian Empire. He had two sons. I struggle to say that one's name, but Ashur Etil Ilani and Shinshar Ishkun. Ashur Etil Ilani ruled Ashur. The other one, Shinshar Ishkun, ruled Babylon. When Nabopolassar was getting to power, he was like, "Fuck you, Assyrians." Basically, pardon my language, but he basically kicked out Shinshar Ishkun out of Babylon. And then Shinshar Ishkun went to Assyria. Him and his brother had a 3-year civil war, and that wasn't helping Assyria either. So basically, that made Assyria weak as well. Eventually, Shinshar Ishkun got control of Assyria. For like the past 10 years, him and Nabopolassar were fighting back and forth, and then Cyaxares, the Median king, came into it around 614 because of what Shinshar Ishkun's father Ashurbanipal did to his father. He wants revenge, so now him and Nabopolassar team up to then around the time of 614, and 2 years later, eventually Nineveh falls, which also Assyria falls as well. So I just wanted to get into that history that, I didn't really go too much into it. I apologize. But just want to go into that history that, within Daniel 7 and 4, it isn't just, okay, the Assyrians got taken out by the Babylonians, and that's it. No, there's history, there's names, there's people, there's dates, there's places of things that happened that, things happened, just like if we were to go into, just really quickly, Salakia, this could be another video as well. If you were to go into Daniel 7 and 5, it says, "And behold, another beast, second like unto a bear, raised itself up on one side." We know that's talking about the Medes and the Persians. But you got to go into the history of how the Persians came into power. And that's getting into Astyages, and then eventually Cyrus the Great, how he came into power. So it isn't just, okay, the Babylonians took down the Assyrians. There's histories, there's names, there's dates, there's people, and such forth. But I pray that this was an edifying video. Giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachak, Wadash, for the wisdom, knowledge, understanding of the scriptures and of everything, the history and all that. And Thawadi Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, for giving us teachers that are teaching us the right way, who are teaching us proper doctrine and the proper name to use, which is Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. I'll say it again. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai is his son's name, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. And peace and blessings to the elect and the hopeful elect through the four corners of earth. Shalom.